Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the fourth session of our Document Accessibility Workshop Series, Presentation Accessibility in Practice. This webinar is made available by the Northwest Higher Education Accessibility Technology Group. Northwest HEAT is a joint project of the Orbis Cascade Alliance and NWAC, the Northwest Academic Computing Consortium. Our mission is to advance our common goal of ensuring that digital services, systems, and resources are equitably accessible to all users. Our overarching goal is to cultivate a community of practice among faculty and staff who support digital accessibility on their campuses. To do this, we provide a series of professional development opportunities, such as this webinar, and we share best practices and resources through a collaborative knowledge base. If you would like more information about the work of Northwest HEAT, as well as other workshops in the Document Accessibility Series, we invite you to visit nwheat.org. That's northwestheat.org. You can communicate with us through the poll that we will share at the end of this session. Before we introduce our presenter, we will take a moment to share some housekeeping details. This session includes a chat, which means you can submit questions to our presenter throughout the session. And since this is a hands-on workshop, we encourage it. This session includes captioning. You will find instructions on how to access captioning in our Zoom chat. This session is being recorded and the video will be shared on the respective Document Accessibility Series event page. Our presenter for the Document Accessibility Workshop Series is Michele Joy Bromley, Manager of Digital Accessibility and Content in the Office of Information Technology at Portland State University. And now we will turn it over to Michele for their presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First, I should let you know that I'm either having a terrible allergy day or a possible cold is on the horizon. So if I seem a little sluggish, it is because my head is filled with cotton swabs or cotton balls, whatever the fuzzy ones are. So once again, my name is Michele Joy Bromley. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And again, if you have not attended the precursor to this workshop today, it is available on the website. And I definitely encourage you to take a look. I'm also going to pop some resources in the chat. The first link, bit.ly/presentation-A11Y-basics. This is a link to the slides that I shared for my last presentation. And then a couple of helpful resources on Google Docs accessibility, things that apply to both docs and slides, and then Microsoft PowerPoint accessibility. I don't have slides for you today. And the reason why is because today is a practice session for us to dig into some of the steps that we talked about during the last presentation for making an accessible presentation. Oh, and Mo, thank you. Yes, happy Global Accessibility Awareness Day. I sent out a disturbing number of emails this morning to various groups and committees on campus suggesting some cool activities for the day. If y'all haven't already, I encourage you to check out accessibility.day, the Global Accessibility Awareness Day website. There's a lot of events happening around the world today to celebrate digital accessibility. Okay, so here's what we are going to do. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. If this is a cold, I absolutely blame my 4-year-old's preschool. It's just an adorable petri dish. Alrighty. Can I get some celebratory emojis or thumbs up emojis if y'all can see a blank untitled Google Slides? Sweet. I see a thumbs up. I've got raised hands. All right. So let's just call this test presentation. Okay. So it is completely all right if I don't get any verbal responses to this. If you're, because I'm not intending this as a pop quiz. But does anyone remember from the last presentation, for those of you who are able to attend, what is the first thing that I talked about content creators really thinking about when they put together a presentation? Ooh, I've got some chat messages. Using a template. Yes, absolutely. Folks, when they begin putting together a presentation, one of the first things they're thinking about is, okay, some structure, at least some basic structure. They think, oh, I'll worry about the details, decorative or contextually relevant images. Like I'll worry about that stuff later. But I need to pick a theme. And one of the things that we talked about in the presentation 2 weeks ago was that my advice for best practice accessible presentation design is to actually think about all of that at the onset, because the amount of time that is then going to save you as an accessible content designer is huge. I want to think about my color contrast, my typography, I want to think about my layout. I want to think about all of that at the beginning by building out a gorgeous theme. So we can start with an ugly one, but I'm just going to look at the templates that they already have available here. Actually, just kind of want to go, let's change a theme here. Oh, look at how delightfully 1980s these are. Does anyone see one, for those of you who can see the screen, that is calling out to them? There's geometric, there's pop. Pop is, how do we feel about pop? Yeah, okay, we got to vote for pop. All right, we're doing pop. Okay. So I've chose a theme. I am not going to now go into designing my content. Okay. I am going to go to my slide menu and I'm going to edit theme, because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make all of my prefab layouts, and that template, emphasizing the use of a prefab template, because that's going to provide the kind of semantic navigational structure that is sort of the adjacent but not quite equivalent of heading structure in a document. So starting at the top slide, both in the theme in Google Slides and in what is non-inclusively called the master slide in Microsoft PowerPoint, is going to define, oh, I got a question. How did I get to the place where I edit the theme? I selected my slide drop-down menu, and which I can go back out of it. So I selected my slide drop-down menu, and within that menu, I selected edit theme, which, if I don't have any add-ons, should be the second from the bottom link in the slide drop-down menu. So this first slide that you're going to edit in either the theme or in Microsoft PowerPoint's master slide, this is actually going to define your typography for the rest of the slide. It's going to cascade down. You can make other downstream changes if you want to do something specific to a later slide, but that first overarching slide is a great place to start. So looking at this Oswald font, my question would be, is Oswald going to be a good choice? Oswald appears to be a sans serif font. I'm not seeing any of those serif tails around. but I'm going to tab out of it real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and type the, I've got play fair display, which we'll talk about in a second, but, wow, there's a lot of fonts going on in here. This theme uses Oswald, Playfair Display, and Montserrat. So let's just test each of them real quick. Anyone remember sort of the cheat to determine if a sans serif font is going to be a good readable choice? I promise I'm not trying to pop quiz. Yes, Jenna, thank you. Yeah, one capital I, lowercase l. Ooh. For those of you who cannot see the screen, we typed the number 1 and then capital I and lowercase l, or maybe it was lowercase l and capital I don't know because they're identical. So I'm going to say we're not going to go with Oswald. Let's check the other one they've got. Playfair. Playfair is a serif font, so it's got those tails. It's going to be a little bit less readable than, say, a sans serif font with title or sentence case. So I'm gonna check Montserrat. Montserrat. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly. It sounds possibly French. 1 capital I, lowercase l. Ooh, not looking good. 0 capital O. So Montserrat, I typed the 1, the capital I, lowercase l. They're virtually similar. They're not completely identical. One of them is maybe a millimeter taller than the other one. Not enough of a differentiation. So I'm not really liking any of the built-in fonts. So I'm going to go back into my slide drop-down menu, edit theme. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to use something trusty. Okay. So, I know that Verdana is one that I've tested a lot and I like the differentiation. So it's the one I'm going to use, but there's other ones. Last time we discovered a great one, in Microsoft Word, and I don't remember what it was, but we're going to go with Verdana. And because I want my minimum font size to be 24-point font, both to do like cognitive learning, reading, visibility, best practices. But the reason I'm doing it in my theme is to keep me accountable. If I didn't set my font size, my minimum font size now, and I dove in and I created all of this content, I was feeling really good about the stuff I was going to share, and then I edited my theme later, and there would be a lot of stuff kind of spilling off the slide. I'd have to redo a lot of things. So knowing that my minimum font size for the body of a slide is going to be 24, I'm going to make the title minimum just a little bit easier to differentiate. So right now it's 30. I'm going to change it to 36. I also prefer in best practices to go into, I'm using my more menu for formatting, which I only have to do because my screen's a little bit smaller than as I'm sharing with y'all. If I didn't have Zoom open and I had my screen bigger, all of my options would be available to me in the style ribbon. But I'm going to open up my more menu because if I were to tab through my menu right now, I wouldn't have access to line and paragraph spacing. And I want to have access to line and paragraph spacing. Just kidding. What I meant was that I wanted to have access to a line. Because one of the things I like to do is in terms of structuring, and this is a personal preference, this is not an accessibility best practice. I like to align the text in the middle of the text box. That's just a tip and trick that I share with folks because the default alignment is typically at the bottom of a text box or at the top of a text box. Very rarely is it in the middle as a default. And what that often means when you're moving text boxes around, you want to add like a nice contextual image or something like that. You're moving things around and things aren't quite aligning the way that you want them to. So I align everything in the middle of my text boxes so that things make sense when I'm arranging later. So I'm going to go into the body and I'm going to change that to Verdana. And I've highlighted all of the text in the body of this overarching theme side, which again is in the slide master for PowerPoint. Oh, thank you. Yes, Daniel has you covered. So in the body, I'm changing it all to Verdana 24. Here's an extra challenge. Again, in my more options, I'm going to go to line and paragraph spacing, and I'm going to add a space after the list item. We've talked about effective use of white and empty space to make your presentations as visually readable and usable as possible. But this is an extra challenge, right? Your minimum font size is 24 and you've put an automatic space between your list items. So that's going to do some very good things in keeping you accountable for the amount of content that you put in your slides. Great. So I've made some changes across the rest of it. I'll have to go down and check the downstream effects because it's possible on this theme that some of the downstream slides have already been edited. I'm also going to think about color contrast for the whole thing, right? I am looking at this text and visually I am pretty confident that it's black, but I'm going to double check. So I'm going to go into my font color, my text color menu, and the best way to check the hex key is to select the add a custom color option as if you're going to change the color, because it'll show you what the current hex key is. And the current hex key is that 6 zeros. So I've got black on white. I don't need to worry about the contrast. For the top, for the title, it's black on yellow, which the contrast is probably going to be good. But I also, this is where you also get to make the style choices you want. You are not stuck with the theme as it is, right? I could switch these colors to PSU colors if I was presenting on behalf of Portland State University. I could switch them to my kids' school colors if I were supporting them in creating a presentation. I actually kind of like the old school yellow and teal we got going on here. But for those of you who can see the screen, the title is highlighted in yellow. It's not like a yellow bar at the top with text on top of it. And that feels weird to me. I am going to check the color contrast before I use this thing at all. So this is a highlight. So I'm going to go to my highlight color. I'm going to use my custom color. I'm going to grab that hex key, which is F8E71C. And I'm going to go to my WebAIM color contrast checker. And I'm going to put that in as a background value. And then I'm going to put my 6 zeros as a foreground. Oh, 16.43 to 1. We're good. We are good with black text on a yellow background. But I don't like the highlights. Which again, this is a personal decision, but I want to make sure to demonstrate. A lot of folks feel as if they're sort of stuck in the like, well, I'd like to use an accessible font or different color, but this is the theme. And similar to the way you can update your styles in a document to match what you want to visually present, you can do the same here. So I am actually going to unhighlight this because what I want to do instead is insert a shape in that color, have kind of a whole bar at the top. Now I am putting this in the theme in the background because it's decorative and I don't want to be stuck putting alt text in it that says decorative. So I'm going to take it, let's make it that beautiful poppin' yellow. And I'm going to, I can right click or shift F10 on my Windows keyboard and go to order and send it to back so it's behind my text, and then I'm going to center my text. Now, oh, there's a border on it. Let me get rid of that border. So I'm going to border color in my menu, and I'm going to make that border transparent. Thank you, Alice, for popping that color contrast link in there. Now, for those of you who can see my screen, you'll notice when I make an edit to the overarching slide at the top, it's going to cascade down. Do I want a yellow bar on the top of every slide? I don't. So I've made the yellow bar I want, great. And I've centered my, actually, I didn't really want to center that. I'm gonna not center it. I'm gonna center it in the middle of the, I'm centering the title in terms of middle alignment for the bar, but I'm not centering it in the screen because I want it to be right aligned. But I'm gonna take that yellow bar and the title, and I'm gonna copy it. So I press Control C on my keyboard, and then I'm gonna go ahead and boop, I got rid of it because this is my overarching slide. When I go down into my later slides, I'm going to paste that beautiful structure. But let's go in order. So now we are on the pop title slide. So the pop title slide again is using some fonts I don't like. The background colors are not a problem because there is there's a big old text box with a white background and black text, and that is the main title. And then there's a subtitle with a black background and white text, and it's sitting on top of some yellow and some and like a turquoise color. I don't need to test any of the contrast of the yellow and the turquoise because there's no text against that background. But what I do want to do is go ahead and fix the text, because making the typography accessible with nice spacing on the overarching slide didn't impact this slide, which means it had some I'm just still kind of messing with that overarching slide to give it a little more space. But it didn't impact this slide, so I'm going to go in and change it from, can we all agree that we don't want to do 3 different kinds of fonts in one presentation? This is wild. Allswald, Playfair, Display, and Verdana, and now Verdana. Okay. All right. So I'm in here. I changed it to Verdana. Whoa, 68. So the size is 68, which good on this theme for having a ginormous font for your title. But we are academics. Do we ever do presentation titles short enough to be 68 font? Probably not. Probably should, but I don't think we do. You know, a lot of our titles have like a prefix and a colon or a dash, you know, like a moving the goalposts, colon, applying accessibility best practices to sports marketing. Gotta give that presentation someday if I knew anything about sports marketing. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to, let's go 48, which seems a lot more doable. I'm going to go into my more menu and align that in the middle. Then I'm going to go to my subtitle. It's already 24-point font. Excellent job, pop theme. And I'm going to switch that to Verdana. My subtitle is likely also to need a lot of space because, again, we're academics. So if I were doing that presentation, which I won't be, I know nothing about sports marketing, but I would, my subtitle would probably be Michele Joy Bromley, comma, MA, comma, CPWA, comma, ADS, manager, comma, digital accessibility and content, Portland State University. We just the titles and all the things, right? So I'm going to make that just a little bit bigger. All right, and it is Verdana, size 24. I'm checking again to match my alignment. It's in the middle. I'm gonna unbold it, give myself a little bit more space. Great, that slide is good to go. No color contrast needs to be checked. I'm going to go to the next one. And sure enough, this one is also custom. So was not affected by the overarching slide, which is very sad. So this, again, I don't need to worry about color contrast because the text box has a white background with black text and it's sitting on top of some decorative color. So I'm not worried about that. I'm going to switch to Verdana. 48 is fine. Alignment's fine. Moving on to the next one. Aha. Okay, we've gotten to the standard title and body slide, and yes, it did pull the formatting from the overarching slide. So I'll just double check. Verdana 24, beautiful. Here's where, you know what? I think on the title and body slide, this is one where I want to have that yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that beautiful thing that I formatted on the previous slide. I've got my yellow background bar that's going to be in the theme, so it's not going to require alt text, which is just a reminder that you never want to put a contextually relevant image in the theme unless you have an alternative plan for making that accessible, because it's just a part of the background. So I've got that slide is good to go. So I'm going to go to my next one. The next one is the title in 2 columns, which weirdly grabbed the formatting from the title of the overarching slide, but not from the body. So those 2 columns, I'm going to go ahead and make them Verdana size 24. I'm going to go to my More menu and double checking that there is, gotta select the list to do this. I'm going to go to my More menu and make sure that there's a space after list item, and there is. So now I'm checking the next column. I know that for those of you who don't typically spend this much time in the theme beforehand, it feels like a lot of work, but I cannot adequately stress how much work this saves you in the long run. In my presentation 2 weeks ago, one of the things I shared is that most of the time I spend more time building out the theme than I do actually building out the content, because I'm building a foundation. And one of the nice things is after you've built a couple of foundations you like in varying colors and styles, you can save them to your account in either in Microsoft PowerPoint or in Google Slides. And those are now themes that you can select from, which is going to make your content design process even faster. Moving to the next slide, this is a pop title only. So this is going to be the kind of slide where you might have a title and then you might have like a graph, for example. And then the final text one here is okay, it's a title and a 1 column. So I am going to use that same sort of yellow bar, but I'm going to go to the body, Verdana, size 24. It's becoming very repetitive now. Okay. Alrighty. And then we've got pop main point. Wow. It is very pink, y'all. This background is so pink. Let's see. Pink, 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 pink. This is probably a background. So I'm going to go to background in my menu. It is. I'm going to go to color and I'm going to go to custom so I can grab the hex key. That is some serious pink we've got going on. I'm going to go to the webbing contrast checker and pop that pink in there. My text is, yes, Jenna, it is giving Barbie. Okay. So this is just that tip and trick that the 6 zeros is, I don't know why I used 4 fingers, 6 zeros, is black and 6 Fs 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is going to be your white. It does not like me. What just happened? Color contrast checker. Did I grab the wrong hex key? I'm going to go back here. This is a very strange hex key. There's something off about this hex key.
It has the alpha channel included, so that means it's fully opaque.
Whoa!
So it has an extra FF at the end. Yeah.
I just checked the contrast. It is contrast ratio is 4.07 to 1. Now the nice thing is that the WebAIM contrast trigger is going to tell you if it failed, which it does. It says it failed. Does anyone remember off the top of their head what the minimum color contrast ratio is going to be for text and background? 4.5 to 1. Absolutely on the money, Daniel. So I don't think this pink is gonna work for us. I really like that teal from the theme. So let's try the teal. Whoa, they're sparky. Let's try the teal. So I'm gonna grab the teal, pop that in. Okay. This is fun doing this on screen. The ratio is 2.6 to 1. So let's try one more thing, and then we're gonna go into this text. We're gonna say for Donna 60, we're changing the spacing to be middle aligned, and we are going to change the font color to black. We're going to go into the WebAIM contrast checker and see, hey, is black any better on this teal? And yes, it is. 8.05 to 1. That's exciting. That's true. Absolutely. Alice, that is a great tip. If people are feeling like, you know what, I'm loving the Barbie vibes, like I want to have a nice pink in there. WebAIM gives you the opportunity to slide that bar and find a version that's going to work well for you. So you could go with a different pink.
I also use that since sometimes I don't remember all the hex codes. If you're ever wanting white or black, you just drag the bar all the way to the right or all the way to the left for either side. And then that way it also helps you with your color contrast.
See, we could have found with Alice's tip. I mean, let's do, come on, AAA. Let's go AAA. Come on. There it is, 7.09 to 1. Okay, that's kind of pretty. That's like a magenta, almost like a purplish pink. I like it. All right, so we just got a couple more. They really like their highlighted text in this theme. I don't know how I feel about this. Oh, Mo, that question. So, in the chat, Mo posed the inquiry. I wonder how many institutions' official colors lack the required contrasts. So many would be the answer to that question. The number of conversations that I have had with institutions I've been working with, where we look at the style guides, and what's funny is that there's often like recommended color pairings. Like not only do they have the color palette, but then they'll have recommended color pairings. And one of the ones I evaluated a few years ago, they had 12 recommended color pairings, and 8 out of 12 of them did not meet color contrast minimums. And the irony was that when they said recommended color pairings, they actually said recommended accessible color pairings, the vendor who had put together the brand guidelines, but not like in the way we're talking about accessibility. They meant like these are, I don't know, appealing, I think is the synonym they were going for. Folks are giving examples, white on yellow here at U of O. Daniel mentions required some brand updates. Oh, crimson and gray. Yeah, the thing is that even if you meet color contrast minimums, but you're talking about like red on any iteration of black, or black on any iteration of red, like black and gray, black and red, like as a color combination is similarly problematic for people with color blindness as like green and red color combinations. Yeah. Oh, this is great. Yeah. So Justy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Justy mentioned another contrast checker that you can download onto your computer. Absolutely great suggestion. I use WebAIM, but there's a lot of really good contrast checkers out there. In the past, I've used Snook, if that's still around, and like the Paciello contrast checker. So finding one that works well for you, whether that's on your operating system or in a browser, is a great idea. And yes, I 100% recommend engaging with your style guide before using school colors and picking the ones that do have a good color contrast. We had a whole thing several years ago when we were rebuilding, redesigning our website. We're moving to a new platform and doing several accessibility audits. And the PSU green in the brand guidelines at the time, like the primary color, did not meet contrast minimums with black text, which is everywhere. So, so it's interesting. Our web design team used that like slider to move it like just above minimums. And so for a while, the green that was being used on the website was like not actually the PSU official green. It was a version of it. Okay, right. We want to move to layout and structure. So I can't with the highlighted text. So I'm going to unhighlight the text because it's just weird to me. I'm double checking that it's Verdana 24. I'm on the section title and description slide. I'm checking that it's middle aligned. This subtitle is Verdana, but it's 24 or it's 21. All righty. Cool. All right. So the last couple ones, I don't think I'm going to use these. And that's one, it's one way that you can kind of clean up. There's a caption slide, a big number slide, and a blank slide. I'm not going to use these, so I'm going to ditch them from the theme. The one last thing I'm going to check is there's often default little slide numbers in the bottom right. If you're going to use slide numbers, you can. I have not found them to contribute further to the accessibility and navigation for folks using adaptive technology. But if it's something that you wanted to have visually, you can. Just remember that that's going to be a pretty big number because you really still want that to keep a minimum font size for readability. So I'm getting rid of those, and then I'm going to have a theme that I like. The one last thing I might do before I hop in and start getting some work done, I'm going to go back to the pop title only slide. And the reason why is because I want to show you another really good tip and trick. Alice was actually talking about this in, I don't know if it was the last presentation or the one before, but ways to create like a timeline or workflow in a way that is going to be as accessible as possible. And the issue is that often with a timeline and workflow, you have a lot of different shapes going on in a Google slide. And if it's meant to be background shapes to support the sort of the visual layout of the timeline, then for someone using screen reading software, you're hearing like 1924 decorative rectangle, 1925 decorative. It's a lot and it can feel really busy. So one thing that I will sometimes do is I'm going to go into my diagrams and I'm going to I want to get some visually engaging, like pop, like let's do like a process, right? So a cool process. Let's do a process. Okay, so I popped a process in there. Now, the default processes, yeah, are they're very small text. Roboto 8 actually is the default here. There's a lot of editing that you're going to want to do there. But what I'm going to do is this. So I'm going to highlight all of the stuff, all of it. Okay. And I'm going to change the font to Verdana, size 24. Whoa. For those of you who can see the screen, who cannot see the screen, it blew it up. It's ginormous. There's just a lot of lorem ipsum and a giant font going on here. Okay, and okay, great. I wanted to demonstrate this for y'all, but whew, it's messy. I'm telling you, organizing your theme is something that's going to be real complex. Okay, I'm going to make these bars bigger. Oh, this is funny. Okay, make these bars bigger. I'm going to make them, let's make them like that pretty teal color, for example, and with no border. And then we'll make each of the numbers. This is not going to be as pretty as I would have wanted it to be, but that's okay. We're just going to make it at least a little bit prettier than it is. Okay, text is going to be black. Beautiful. Okay. Now we're going to get rid of some of this lorem ipsum stuff. So stuff about things. Okay. And actually, let's make this stuff about things. Okay. Apologies if this is taking a minute, but I do want to show y'all how to do this. And we're gonna make this one a little bit bigger too. Okay, great. And is this a text box with a background? I believe it is. So we're gonna say date. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna get rid of these other ones. Get rid of these other, come on. Whoa. Oh, they're grouped, ungrouped. That's my problem. Didn't realize these were all grouped. We have to ungroup them because we are going to put the text in the front and the decorative stuff in the back. Oh, there we go. Okay, excellent. Copy. The rotating on this stuff is, the rotation on this stuff is a little weird. Y'all are watching me struggle, but at least this is a very real representation of editing a theme. Stuff about things.
It's very relatable.
Yep. And then let's just make it match. Whoops, daisies. Make this one match too. I'm just adjusting my, I don't even know what to call them, but I'm adjusting the things. They're just literally things, little colorful bars that are in the background that are decorative. This is really just a timeline. And I don't want the numbers because that's going to give off the impression that it is a numbered list. And I have no idea how to make that an actually true numbered list. So we're not going to do that. Okay. All right. So we've got some sort of timeline. All right. We have stuff about things and then a date. All right. And if I wanted, I could add like let's do like a little arrow. Okay, so I could do a little arrow here using my yellow. Nope, black. And okay, I'm gonna do a little arrow. Okay, cool. I'm gonna now take all this text. And I might even take the arrows too, because those I'm gonna want that's where I'm gonna put my alt text indicating like this is a diagram with one thing leading to the other. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. All right, so what I have in the background now is really just 3 teal thingies. Okay, so now I'm good with my theme, or I'm feeling good right now. I might iterate later. I just did a bunch of front work, but that is such a huge part. It's one of the biggest parts about making a presentation accessible. So now I'm using these built-in templates. So I've got that navigational structure, right? I'm gonna put in new slides and I'm going to apply some of the layouts I've used. So for example, if I wanted that title only slide, now I'm going to paste my timeline back on top of it. And those bluish teal things that would be very annoying for someone using screen reading software to hear all of this decorative background stuff, it's not going to be heard. What is going to be heard is stuff about things, date, whatever the alternative text is for that arrow, stuff about things, date, and the alternative text for that arrow, stuff about things, date. So they're going to hear the parts that are most important, but I still have that visual background. So, I'm using built-in layouts. I've got my typography. I know that I need to put alt text for all of my images. Thinking about the things you've got in your checklist. Navigational structure. I'm using built-in layouts that I've modified to be what I want them to be. Alternative text. I'm putting alternative text behind my images. In my slide templates, I have created, I've indicated how I want my lists to look, but I do actually have to go into my menu bar and choose a bulleted list or a numbered list if I want to use it. I'm going to type things. I'm just typing gibberish right now. And when I create a new line, it is putting a little bit of white space between those lines. I can tab forward, I can create something else. I do want to double check that it's the amount of space I want because it's not quite looking like it has as much space as I want. So I'm going to go to line and paragraph spacing. The theme abandoned me. It didn't put enough space between the list items. Again, this is one of the reasons why that human verification, I'm using true bulleted and numbered lists. I'm double checking effective use of white space between my listed items. I'm thinking critically about alternative text behind my images, these arrows. I would go into my alternative text and I'd say, is there an adjective for diagramical? I'm gonna go just arrow leading from. I should have been more descriptive because it's stuff about things in every single one. But let's say, yeah, leading from breakfast to lunch. Okay, and then my next arrow would be arrow leading from lunch to dinner. And so then of course I would want to change my text to in fact breakfast and then lunch and dinner. I don't know why I would be giving folks a timeline of my meals, especially across multiple days, but let's see, what else do we want to be thinking about in terms of validation? We want to be thinking about, I did some funky stuff in that theme by giving myself sort of a built-in timeline option. And one of the things I didn't check inside the theme was the focus order. And it's one of the last things I'm going to do as I'm finishing up a presentation that I'm going to test each thing. I'm going to go into my tree view, and this is something I'm going to do in Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into my tree view or my navigation pane, and I'm going to tab into the slide and tab through all the elements and make sure that they're in the order in which I intend for them to be read. All right. Now, the cool thing is I'm using built-in layouts that I modified and paid a lot of attention to as I was putting together the theme. So my reading order should be pretty good. No, it's because I changed the title in there. I went to my title slide in here, the one with a title and a body, and I tabbed in, and my keyboard focus went to the body first instead of the title itself. I could fix that individually for every slide, but I don't want to do that. I want to fix that in my theme so that from now on, every one of those, the reading order is good. That's one of the important things about using layouts in a theme. So I'm going to go into my title and body slide, and I know we're running out of time, but anyone know off the top of their head the way that you fix reading order in Google Slides? We very briefly touched on it in the presentation 2 weeks ago. It is actually a little easier in Microsoft PowerPoint than it is in Google Slides, because in Microsoft PowerPoint, you have the option of using your selection pane. And using your selection pane, there's a couple options. You can use your keyboard to send objects backward and forward. You're thinking about essentially like a plane, where you have objects that are going to appear in a certain order. So you can use your keyboard, or you can drag and drop in the selection pane. There might be a selection pane somewhere in Google Slides, but the only way really that I've found is to do it by keyboard, or I mean, you can use your mouse with some right clicking. But what's going on here is that the order in which you want your stuff on your slides, you're going to start with, this is going to sound weird, the thing that's going to be read first needs to be in the back. So the way I usually do this to remember is I'm going to start with the thing I want to show up last and send it all the way to the back, and then go in reverse order, send the next thing to the back, the second to last, next thing, third to last, right? There's only 2 things on this slide, so I'm going to start with the last thing. I'm going to right click or shift F10. I'm going to go to order. It's already in the back, which is not where it should be. So I don't need to send it to the back because it's already there. So I'm going to right click on the title, and I'm going to send that to the back. And then I'm going to do the image and send that to the back. So now, and I'm gonna have to do that for the rest of my theme, but now when I go back to my slide, I'm gonna look at the tree view, I'm gonna tab in, oh, really? Oh, it's because I didn't save it. I apologize, everyone. Okay. Yeah, I know we're running out of time. Anybody have any additional questions as I'm doing this? I think we actually covered just about everything. Great question. Nicole asked if, where to find the recording for the last session. Would one of the moderators be willing to go ahead and pop the link to the Northwest Heat website into the chat? Okay. Perfect. Alice, thank you so much. Yeah, focus order is annoying to correct in really PowerPoint or Google Slides. But like I said, it's the direction of the objects in sort of the plane of your slide. So sending each thing to the back, just gonna go new slide. And I'm gonna say apply layout, title slide, and then I'm gonna check my reading order. Beautiful. It's back the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, verifying alt text, reading order. You've already taken care of all of your typography and color in terms of putting together the theme. Any remaining questions?